Hello everyone, and welcome to this evening's SCORE Fairfield County's live webinar on digital productivity for your small business. This is our first webinar in this evening time slot, and we hope that you'll find it convenient. My name is Bob Hogan. I'll be the webinar coordinator, and I'm a business mentor here at SCORE Fairfield County. I'm going to be your host, and our presenter today is Bud Freund, and more on Bud in just a minute, but just some brief information on SCORE. A national organization with over 11,000 volunteers across the country. Locally here in SCORE Fairfield County, we have about 100 volunteers with a wide range of industry, process, and subject matter expertise. And we offer three primary value-added services to small business owners. As it says in the slide here, our core offering is individual one-on-one counseling, and it's free, and you can do it by face-to-face, by telephone, email, or Skype. And if you'd like to request a mentor and don't have one, you can either visit our website or take that short link that's on the screen here at bit.ly SCORE Mentor. We also offer a wide range of educational workshops and webinars, actually over about 150 throughout the course of the year. And lastly, we offer extensive resources on our website, including a network of subject matter experts that you can access. Our next webinar will be 2 weeks from today on March the 5th, and the topic is Marketing the One-Person Business, Consulting or Professional Practice, with Cliff Enico presenting, and you can find more specifics on that on our website at fairfieldcounty.score.org. We have set aside time for Q&A at the end of today's presentation. If you have a question, please use the chat window. It's in the lower left part of your screen, and you can put your question in at any time during the presentation. Our webinar will end sharply at 6:30, and the session is being recorded, and the link to the recording, which will include the materials, will be available on our website, fairfieldcounty.score, within the next couple of days. It's now my pleasure to introduce our speaker. Bud Freund has been self-employed for over 40 years, and after graduating from Ithaca College, his clients included corporate, magazine, and architectural and public relations firms. And as the world shifted to digital, his technical expertise migrated into multimedia and digital imaging, and finally to small business computer support and training. He's a frequent SCORE speaker and a certified SCORE mentor focusing on technology tips, tricks, topics, and trends. And I'll now turn it over to Bud. Bud, it's all yours.
Thank you, Bob. And I have been looking forward to saying hello all, and thank you for joining us for this new chapter in our chapter's history. These are the topics we're going to talk about tonight, but before we dive in too deeply, I want to focus on that bottom part in blue, where I want you to think about that last time you tried to do something and a computer wouldn't let you. And my favorite example that Bob has heard far too many times is when you call up an office and the person on the other end of the phone says, "Could you call back later because they're working on the database and I cannot get into the calendar." When this happens to us as the consumer, it's a temporary inconvenience for which we pick our favorite four-letter word, figure out a solution, and go about the rest of our day. When it happens to us as a business owner, you cannot let it shut you down. So, if you take away nothing else from this evening's speech, conversation, workshop, whatever you'd like to call it, figure out how you would do these four things in the event that the computer that you use day in and day out at your office stopped working. And understand that if you take the time to do that, you will have a leg up on a multinational corporation who had absolutely no idea of what to do when they got shut down by North Korea. Now, since we're going to be talking about digital productivity, I wanted to first at least have a definition of what it is that we're going to be talking about and understand that in order to fulfill this digital productive process, you should be able to move your stuff between your desktop at the office, your phone, your laptop, your tablet, and be able to make that workflow go really, really smoothly. Now, before we dive in too deeply on how we're going to do that, it's important to understand that we are an enormously distracted society. One of our recent webinar presenters had mentioned this. The original survey or research was done by Microsoft in Canada, and yes, that's correct. The human brain is paying less attention than a goldfish. So we need to be able to grab people's attention really, really quickly, and unfortunately, part of what's also going on in this distracted world that we're in is this thing called persuasive design, which is a phrase that has just recently started to creep into the media to explain what it is that we're seeing online. Because we've all gotten the email that says, a lot has happened on Facebook since you last logged on. And it's a motivator. It's the, what am I missing? And I need to join in. And to get work done, truthfully, you really do not. But persuasive design brings you back to a place that you were before, and it's so simple to operate, it'll give your thumb lockjaw because you're moving it back and forth so much. Now, it's also important to understand that the quantity of time that people are spending in social media is now starting to be measured, and it's not looking good. So, whether you're on an Android phone or an Apple phone, this is an Apple screenshot here, if you start to limit your screen time from these things, it will only help you to focus on your work rather than the other things that are going on around you. And understand that the people who are throwing this out to us have done some very serious homework. This statistic down here I find enormously disturbing because if Google and Facebook understand that if they don't grab you in 3 seconds, you're going to go away, the back-end investment that they make to do that is considerable. Also, we as a society are suffering from this thing called fear of missing out. And there are now actually businesses that are trying to help other businesses to not miss out or believe that they're not missing out. Another distraction that I wanted to make mention of is this thing called the retargeting pixel, which is, in a simple form, why those sandals or flip-flops are following you all over the Internet. And what's interesting is that in trying to do some homework on how do I turn off this retargeting pixel, I could only find how do you turn it on. So this is a trade secret that people in the industry are hiding as carefully as possible. And we will talk about this browser, DuckDuckGo, in a little while as well. But few other things to understand about the distractibility is that it is now starting to show some wear and tear because people are getting creeped out with all this stuff that's following them all over the Internet. So how are you able to start to minimize that? Well, one of the things you can do is to turn off your notifications, and your phone will continue to work very well if you shut off lots and lots of stuff. Now, there may be things in this list that you need. For me, these were all things that I could turn off and survive without. Android, there will be a place to turn off notifications as well. The next thing, which is really significant, is how to turn off all of the tracking that Google has been doing. And this URL, myactivity.google.com, has only come into the forefront in the last 4 to 6 months because of the quantity of pressure that is being placed on all of these giants of the Internet. And by the way, you can turn off your ad personalization and it will not ruin your Internet experience. And even though that little robot down there is really, really sad that it's not following you anymore, don't worry about it. It's perfectly fine. Now, on myactivity.google.com, you would need to log on with your Gmail account. And once you get in there, Google will refer to that web and app activity as being paused. And there's a number of switches that you can turn off. It will turn off your YouTube tracking. It will turn off your YouTube history. And everybody's different. So which ones do you want? Which ones don't you want? Those are your choices. My suggestion, if you're trying to get work done, the less information you're giving to people to track you on, the better off you're going to be. Next item is a website called aboutadsinfo, which is a consortium of 136 legitimate online advertisers who understand that you may not want pop-ups all the time, and you may want to shut this stuff off so it will leave you alone. In order to do that, it's aboutads.info. Go to the consumers page. You want to click on this link, Consumer Choice, and what you will get is this list of 130, mine is 134, depending on your browser and what you're using. It will churn through all of this, and it will shut them down. And I get very few pop-ups on my screens. I'm on a Mac and a PC, and it just works. I recommend doing it for each of your computer devices because it is going to be addressing specifically the cookies on a particular machine and your particular browser. So let's talk for a while about everybody's bane of existence, which is email, because we're all living in it and we're all getting clobbered with it. And there's a few things that can be addressed in that regard. First of all, there are some of us who need to live in email constantly, and for us it is how our work gets done, and if we don't get the emails, we don't have work. There are other people who can focus on the job that they do for whatever period of time and only focus on the emails that are coming in twice, maybe 3 times a day, depending upon how much email you rely on for the work that you do. Also, I have made this recommendation to numerous people now. If you are getting far too much stuff in your inbox, first of all, delete from your mobile device, because the potential for a virus or malware is going to be minimized through mobile devices. And let me explain why. If you are on a Windows computer and there is a Windows virus associated with that unsubscribe link, if you do it from an iPhone or an Android phone, it is really no different than somebody from Greece going to Yugoslavia and trying to have a conversation with the guy. The Yugoslavian doesn't speak Greek. The Greek doesn't speak Yugoslavian. The two of them could be smiling and cursing at each other, and neither one of them will know what's going on. In other words, if you've got the potential for a Windows virus, unsubscribe from an iPhone or an Android phone. It's not going to get corrupted. Also, that sacrificial email, I'm not giving you anything unless you give me your email address. If you have this secondary or tertiary email, you can go into the spam filter of that or dedicate a different email app. What I do on my iPhone is that I happen to really like the Apple email program. I have downloaded the free version of Microsoft Outlook, which is a terrific piece of software. My Outlook only has my sacrificial email. I look at my spam, I skim it quickly, I select all, I delete. If everything is going into your primary email, you are going to devote extra time to working your way through each and every line of email, and it will take you longer to get through it. So, those are my suggestions on email. You've got questions, fire away. We will certainly get to them. Now, I want to talk about work for just a moment, but understand that if you have the time to make cute little puppy dogs out of heads of lettuce, you're either in the wrong webinar or I really wish I had as much time as you. So, in the office, aside from that Bermuda Triangle of productivity which we're all grabbing at constantly, put the phone away. Get the work done. Also, as a safety precaution, and we'll do a little bit more on computer safety going a little farther in, Gmail now has two-step authentication. I strongly recommend it wherever you can. As for the productivity tools, we're going to start here with my most favorite, which is 2 monitors. The productivity that you get out of not having to toggle between the PDF that you need to reference and the email that you're writing, it's considerable. You can put a spreadsheet up on one screen, you can have your email on the other, and you can move your mouse between the two. It's just like having a bigger desktop. It is absolutely fabulous, and today's modern computers, desktop computers, can easily address the horsepower that would be needed to have those 2 monitors showing up. The second item I am an enormous fan of, whether it's a desktop or a laptop, is a 2-button mouse. The right mouse click is just a huge resource for all of the pull-down menus that Microsoft has made go away with the ribbon. Those of us who use Microsoft Office know exactly what I'm talking about. With a right mouse click in Word, Excel, or PowerPoint, you get all that stuff that used to be a pull-down menu. It is incredibly powerful, really helpful for getting things done quickly, and it will work on a Macintosh computer. As a matter of fact, I'm doing that right now. Power cords and chargers. If you don't have power cords with you for your laptop and your laptop runs out of battery juice because you forgot to charge it overnight, you are, in a politically correct phrase, screwed. Chargers as well. Keep a charger in your bag. They're just like a necessity now, like any other thing that your wallet, your phone, your credit card, some cash, these are all a charger. These are now just things that we have to carry. Also, I am a huge fan of keyboards. I have sat in the parking lot at the Stanford City Hall, put my phone on my dashboard, pulled out my Bluetooth keyboard, and typed a 2-page letter. Nobody knew where I was, didn't matter. I could get my ideas out. I could get it done quickly, and nobody is going to be able to move their thumbs as quickly as they would be able to run that keyboard. Batteries. I happen to be using right now a Bluetooth battery-operated 2-button mouse because with Bluetooth I don't use up one of the ports on my laptop, and with a battery, when the battery dies, I don't need to recharge it in a USB. However, I do carry around 2 or 3 batteries USB capable, so if my phone is getting old and tired, I can plug it into a battery and I can continue to go through my day. And the other thing that's really interesting is that if you consider working at a desk, it is a fabulous productivity tool because 2 reasons. First of all, it's a place for you to put the keyboard and the mouse, which help you to work faster. And also, the faster you get done with your desk work, the faster you get done and out of the office. If you're lying in bed or you're sitting in whatever corner, it's not going to be as fast. It just isn't. Now, let's talk about desks for just a moment. Yoo-hoo, there we are. There is a message in here, and I know that I put it there, and I know I had a teacher in college who used to say that a cluttered desk is a sign of genius, but I don't tend to believe that as much as I used to. Now, let me see if I can find that. It's getting clearer now to me, but again, the information is really, really easy to work with when you are working on a clear and uncluttered desk. Clean this stuff up. We're all guilty of it on a regular basis. Matt Beyer is a fabulous organizer who I've done presentations with. I am looking at the vertical clear plastic files that he set me up with. That they're just great. They're very helpful. Keeps stuff off my desk, keeps me organized. And by the way, you don't need this many of these toolbars. They'll work, but they're not always going to be as helpful as you'd like. I want to spend some time talking about browsers, and this is another photograph from that collection. I call them the guacamole chorus. Couple of different browsers these days. Microsoft Edge obviously is a Microsoft product on the Windows side. If I can not be in a Microsoft product, particularly Edge, I try not to. Everybody remembers Explorer. When a company owns up to the fact that their previous product can't be continued anymore, there was something going on, and let's move on. Safari is the native Apple browser. It works really well. Chrome is a cross-platform browser, which is probably in the highest use these days. And at the manufacturing of the website end of things, the people who develop websites are testing and bulletproofing their websites in those first three. Edge, because there are companies that keep their Microsoft stuff and their Windows stuff, and that's all you can have. Apple, because Safari is the Apple product, and Chrome, because it's the cross-platform. We use a website called ReadyTalk to do these presentations, and we have found it to be the case that ReadyTalk does not work with Firefox. So it's become like a third wheel. However, I am a huge fan of Firefox for a number of productivity reasons, which I want to walk through. And the first one being these colorful tabs. For those of us who are visual, you get different colors for all your tabs. It's very easy to keep track of things. Next is my search bar, which is over here. I use DuckDuckGo, as I mentioned earlier, because I find that DuckDuckGo is the only browser that is not following everything you do. If you're in Google, they are tracking what you do until you turn everything off, and that's the flip-flops or the Chevys that are now following you all over the internet because you went looking for it in Google. So as I said, I use DuckDuckGo. They do not follow you, and I would say it's about 85% helpful. Also in Firefox, you can drop your bookmarks in along this row up here, and if you right mouse click, you can shorten the names. The shorter the name, obviously, the more things you can fit along that toolbar there. Downloads are this very small little down pointing arrow, and everything you download you will be able to find over there. Forecast Fox tells you the weather pretty much anywhere on the planet Earth. So if you do business with clients in San Francisco or Chicago, you could use Forecast Fox to find out how the weather is over there. And if you're traveling, it will give you the information for wherever you're headed to. By the way, these are all free add-ons to Firefox. Bear with me, folks. It doesn't want to move forward. There we are. Evernote. I am a huge fan of Evernote, and I pay for Evernote as a software service specifically for this Evernote clipper right here as one of the features. It will put into Evernote either an article or a full web page or clippings out of an article, and it's an enormously powerful tool for those of us who do a lot of research online. I do a lot of newspaper reading, and Evernote allows me to gather those articles and keep them in a single place. Fox Clocks, again, if you're doing business around the world, it will give you times in all sorts of countries. And last but not least, Firefox has hidden all of the stuff in these 3 lines. So when you want to put in add-ons or check your history or any of the other items that might be of interest about the browser that you're using, they stuck it all in there. So let's talk a bit about mobility, because being able to move around and move your data around is really critical to getting things done these days. I have become a huge fan of Office 365 for a number of reasons. One being that they will provide me with a terabyte of online storage, and when we get down to Dropbox and OneDrive, we'll go into that in a little more detail. But the app, the Office 365 app, is consistent, very consistent over the Macintosh and Windows platforms, so it's familiar whether you're touching it on either style of computer. It is a free offer to your iOS, your Apple device. It is also free on an Android device. As I mentioned earlier, Outlook is a free piece of software that you can download either for Android or for Apple. They've done a really good job of making a piece of software that can travel all around. Price-wise, and understand that 365 is rental. It is not ownership of the software. You are renting it for $100 a year, and they will give you 5 licenses. So I've got a license on my desktop computer. I've got a license on my laptop computer. My daughter will get a license before she goes off to school. My wife can have a license, and we renew that license annually. Take good care of your credit card, and it will also provide you with current software, which Microsoft is regularly and consistently plugging the holes. Now, as for Dropbox, OneDrive, and Google Drive, these are, in my opinion, accessibility tools. It allows you to put information in a single place and get it from anywhere or any device that you're on. It is not a backup. A backup is a whole different story, and we'll get there in just a few moments. But between Dropbox, OneDrive, and Google Drive, Dropbox will give you, I think it's 2 gigabytes at no cost. OneDrive as part of Office 365 is a terabyte, and Google will give you 5 gigabytes of storage for free. So there's a huge amount of storage space online, but understand, of course, that if you say, I want my pictures online too, that space will fill up very, very quickly. Now, in terms of email, I am a huge fan of Microsoft Hosted Exchange. It is basically a single place online with a backup that has your email, your contacts, your calendar. If you choose to keep notes there, you can have notes there as well. And it's just an incredibly powerful tool which you have to pay for. And part of the cost of entry is that you must have a domain name. Whether your company is ihavelettucecats.com or whatever it may be, you need to have a domain name before you can be involved with Microsoft Hosted Exchange. But it's a great tool, and if you have a problem with a phone, you have a problem with a computer, all of your stuff is still online. You rejoin, and it all comes down again. It's a wonderful thing the first time you have a problem. If you are in the creative end of things, Adobe Creative Cloud will allow you 2 licenses for whatever service you choose to get from them. I use a Photoshop and Lightroom combination, so I can have it on my desktop, I can have it on my laptop. And again, Creative Cloud will move through multiple platforms, and if you're using Lightroom to organize your images, you can have them on your tablet or your mobile device, your phone. Really great. Chrome Remote is a free method of remote accessing that computer back at the house or back at the office. It will require Chrome. It does require some setup, but once it's done, you go to your Chrome browser, you go to your Chrome apps, you go to Chrome Remote, and you can go from whatever device you're touching, wherever you are, back to the computer, either at your office or at your home. And I can tell you that while it will work cross-platform, it does get confused with the right mouse clicks between Macintosh and PC. But you can get referenced back to whatever you left at the desktop in your office and be able to check it. Splashtop is also a remote access service. It is a paid service. I've got several clients who are on it. They find it highly reliable. It will work even if you are not sitting at the computer to allow entry. Chrome Remote will do the same thing. The difference between the two, there are some people who will pay for a service because they don't want to be involved with Google. You're never quite sure what Google is tracking or tracing. I wish I could say differently. Now, in terms of backup, and as I said before, to be able to access things wherever you are is not necessarily a backup of your data. Now, backup. Mozy and Carbonite are now owned by the same company, so if you like one over the other, you're giving your check, your credit card number to the same people. If you're on an Apple computer, Time Machine is a fabulous method. I don't generate enough stuff, in my opinion, to warrant traveling around constantly with Time Machine on, so I plug it in at least once a week, maybe a couple of times a week if things are busy. Everything from my laptop backs up to my Time Machine. I unplug Time Machine and I've got a clean, pristine backup from my laptop. If you're not familiar with Datto, it's a paid service which will take an image of whatever computers you contract with Datto to protect, backup, call it what you want. In the event of that disaster, catastrophe, whatever you want to call it, in your computer, you can go on any machine, log into the Datto website, put in your username and password, and all of that information that was sitting on the computer in your office will be online and you will be able to continue working. If you need to pull it back down from Datto, if you have the identical machine, it will basically pull an image from online and down. If it is not an identical machine, you'll have to throw switches to pull your data, but it's all up there and stored in the world of Datto, and Datto puts that data in a back pocket so that it is pristine, safe, and clear. Now, there are two kinds of people in the world, those who back up and those who will. And for those of you who are looking to do a really good, safe backup, it is called a 3-2-1-1 backup, and it goes like this. Put your data in 3 different places, 2 different media, one of them off-site and one of them offline. So let me walk you through it. 3 different places. One would be the computer that it's on. A second place would be an external hard drive. A third place could be Mozy or Carbonite. 2 different media. One of them could be that external hard drive or a thumb drive, Mozy, Carbonite. Those are all different media. One of them off-site can be Mozy or Carbonite, and one of them offline. And this is where most people don't do the work. If you do an offline backup, my Time Machine is plugged in, it does a backup for the 5 minutes, 10 minutes it takes, and I unplug it. If something happens to my computer, the data that's sitting in Time Machine is clean and untouched. If Sony had done that, they would have disconnected Sony from the internet, plugged in the one backup machine that had all the information and refed every computer in the company. So, big fan of 3211 backups. And as long as we're in the world of security, I want to talk about the two-step authentication, which if you are doing online banking or anything financial, I strongly urge you to do it. It is one of the better safeguards that you can do for yourself in any kind of online commerce. This MarketWatch report, John Podesta, for those of you who don't know, was the man running the 2016 Democratic presidential election campaign. He was running it from his Gmail account without two-step authentication, and the password that he was using on his Gmail account was, yes, that's correct, password. Now, if you look below, you can see here that it is possible to use the word password, but I recommend doing it in something known as the LEET language, short for elite. And you just transpose letters for numbers. And while you may remember it as password, somebody can type that in 6 different ways, but if they don't know this secret formula, they're not going to get anywhere at all. Same thing with two-step, where change your capitals, use numbers. These are pretty good passwords and very simple to remember. And the third item that I can suggest in the world of passwording is to combine a person, a place, and a thing. And between those, you're in a really good place, and just don't leave it on a sticky on your monitor, please. Now, this was a reported website today. I checked it out, and it's really excellent for small businesses. It is a MasterCard-sponsored website called gcatoolkit.org, and if you go on there, they are offering free software for antivirus. They're offering password creators. There are a couple of different apps for testing the safety of your network and whether your software is up to date. It was an excellent collection of stuff for small businesses. Just announced today. Strongly recommend you take a look at it. We have no rules, laws, regulations yet for small businesses, although I would tell you that they're coming very, very soon. So, I want to talk about multitasking for a while, because when you talk to the people who study us, people and psychology, psychiatry, they will tell you that the human brain was not built to multitask. It can toggle. So it can work on something. There's this fractional pause. What was I working on over there? Go on to the other thing. And there's always going to be that pause in between whichever 2 items you're working on. So per se, you will get things done far more efficiently if you just focus on a single item and do it. And if you can strip out, if my mouse would reply to me, strip out the clutter, you will find that the more you can focus on a single item and get it done and go on to the next item, the faster things are going to get done for you and the more efficiently you will be able to work. Next item I want to talk about, and it's becoming a bigger and bigger issue, is sleep. Hard to believe, but we are a sleep-deprived society, and if you are not familiar with the phrase circadian rhythm, it's a fancy way of saying your body clock. It's the, I get up every day at 6 o'clock in the morning, I have breakfast by 7 o'clock in the morning, I'm eating lunch between 12 and 1, I have dinner, and the more you can get into this rhythm, the better off you are going to be in terms of the productivity of your life. And as you can see in this article on athletic performance was yesterday's Washington Post. So people are seeing this as a value, and if you don't think that sleep will help you to perform at work, I would suggest you rethink your thinking. It will only help you to get things done better. Now, I'm not quite sure of what the Swedish death cleaning is, but by name alone it makes me kind of nervous. Marie Kondo will talk about finding joy in the things that you keep. If you are in business, I would suggest that you find profit in the things that you keep. Maybe in your home you look for joy. And for those of us who are huge fans of the 1967 Mel Brooks movie, The Producers, that was Lee Meredith as Ulla the secretary, whose only English was, "Go to work." So, is there anything that I can answer for anybody on this?
Okay, thanks, Bud. We're now going to use our remaining time for Q&A, and we'll take as many as possible up to about 6:30. We have a number of questions submitted already, but just as a reminder, if you'd like to submit a question or have Bud go back to a topic, you can do that too. Please feel free to type it into the chat feature in the lower left-hand side of your screen. So we'll start with a couple of questions, Bud, from Vicki McKenzie, and she's asking: is there a keyboard that you can attach that she can attach to her phone, and if so, what would you suggest?
Yes. Keyboards that attach to your phone are done through software called Bluetooth, and there are multiple choices of Bluetooth keyboards. I've been using one from Zag, which is a company that's been out of business for a while. However, Microsoft happens to make an absolutely fabulous folding Bluetooth keyboard. It's about $120, which is to the high end on these things. However, it folds up really small. It's really pretty. It works really well. And I have a client who's using it and pleased with the results, and it packs up nicely. If you don't want to go that route, you go to Amazon and you type in Bluetooth keyboard. I sent my kid off to college with a Bluetooth keyboard that used AA batteries. Deliberately sent her with a Bluetooth with AA batteries because, as we know, if you don't need something all of the time, the one moment that you need to use that keyboard, the rechargeable batteries, they're going to be dead. So it's far better to have AA battery Bluetooth keyboard. It will talk to your Android phone, it will talk to your Mac, it will talk to your tablet, and you can toggle in between all of them and marry them up. And I use that keyboard on my phone, I use it on my tablet. Huge fan of Bluetooth keyboards. They'll be anywhere from, I'd say about $20, as I said, up to the Microsoft, which is $120.
Okay, related cost question. When you were covering the various services, is there a cost to Evernote?
There are three flavors of Evernote. The free version will give you 60 megabytes of data to store monthly, like your phone plan, which recycles every month. Evernote's free service will give you 60 megabytes of stuff to store. To give you an example, how much stuff is 60 megabytes? The Bible is 1.4 megabytes, just to give you an idea of how much text. So 60 megabytes can hold a sizable amount of information. If you start to add images, that 60 meg eats up faster. If you put in audio, it will eat up faster. If you have documents that you would like to store similar to the Microsoft OneNote, where you can have a notebook for your XYZ client, and you can put your contract and the PDFs that associate or the spreadsheets, you can do the same thing in Evernote. But as I said, in the 60 megabyte free version, you'll eat up that space pretty quickly. I spend $60 a year. I get a terabyte of storage. I get the web clipper, and for the work that I do and be able to pull those headlines as I do for all of the webinars that I present, that web clipper is really important to me because every now and then somebody says, do you have the article that correlates back to that? And I can go straight into Evernote. The databasing function is extraordinarily good, so I can type in lettuce dogs and I can find stuff. It's an amazingly good program. The third version of Evernote is more for the multi-user business, and off the top of my head, I don't know what it costs, but obviously it's going to be more than $60 per year, single user.
Okay, that's great. A different topic, you were talking about being tracked on the internet, and the question here is, what difference does it make if I'm tracked? I get ads on Facebook from department stores I shop, and so how does that matter?
Personal choice for everybody. There are some people who do not want their information out and about. There are other people who don't care. For those who are conscious of it, there are ways to minimize the amount of information and the amount of tracking that's being done. For those who don't care, continue on. The one caveat that I would add to that is something that my wife's company said, and my wife took this course. She's been there 18 years now, and 18 years ago they made a very clear statement to her, which was, if you don't want it on the front page of the New York Times, don't put it in an email. And if you don't care, go about your business. If you're conscious and cautious, then proceed that way. There's stuff that gets people into trouble online constantly, and there are other people who are trying really hard to think of the internet as having that formal business conversation, because otherwise there could be something that you just don't want slipping out. Personal preference, that's all.
Okay. A couple of questions on backup. How many backup sources should you have? And I think maybe you covered some of that, but maybe you could perhaps review it. And a related question
Sure.
is an external hard drive plus the cloud good enough for small business?
Let's go back to that screen. An external drive plus online backup for a small business, in my opinion, is going to be almost good enough, because the issue with the external drive, and I'm speaking from an experience that a client had. Here's the story. It's a small business, Fairfield County, has one person working for them. They got the email, clicked on the email, and the next thing they knew, their Dropbox was held for ransom. They were able to recover some portion of it because you can go backwards as long as you react quickly. However, if there was one drive that gets plugged in, do your backup however often you feel it's necessary for the business that you're in, unplug it when you're done, that drive is sitting completely removed from the rest of your network. And as I said, it is the one item that most people do not engage in because it's that extra piece of work, and we're all busy. I'm not denying the fact that everybody is working or overworking or answering emails before going to bed. But as I said, the 3211 backup, if you're worried and if you value your data, that to me is the route to go. And on a sidebar to that, this past summer in August, the federal government mandated one of the departments of the government called the National Institute of Standards and Technology to basically come up with the double yellow lines and the traffic lights for small business, because unless you're in HIPAA for medical, Sarbanes-Oxley or Graham-Leach-Bliley for publicly traded companies, or you're in real estate where the title companies are addressing the privacy and security issues, there really are no laws that we have right now that determine how the data that you collect as a business needs to be protected. Whereas in Europe, there is now a law for the European Union called GDPR, the General Data Protection Regulation, and you can find our webinar on that from our SCORE website. You now, as a consumer, need to opt into the information that's being gathered, as opposed to here in the United States where you need to opt out. And even in requesting the opt-out, you cannot necessarily get that information removed. Just as a reference, if you're curious, go to Google, type in Trudy Wade, and go look at the images. Trudy Wade is a state senator, I believe, in North Carolina. And see what Google has to say about her. She can't make it go away. So when it comes to backup, I'm a very big fan of having that offline backup, regardless of how you do it or where you do it. Data will do it for you. I use QuickBooks Online, and QuickBooks is taking care of my stuff, and knowing that they have so many different people's information, I put faith in the fact that they take really, really good care of it. What else? Okay.
Just a reminder, we do have a few minutes for questions left, so if you have more questions or would like Budley to go back to a topic, he'd be glad to do so. One more question here, and Bud, maybe I'll answer this. Is there a service that will give IT support to a home office? For example, I had a client send me photos to Dropbox, but I couldn't figure out how to get into Dropbox. I tried to download it, but it must have done something wrong. I'd like to have a service that I could use occasionally. Does this exist? And I don't want to embarrass Bud here, but in his paying career, this is volunteer work that he's doing, but in his paying career, Bud provides service to small.
Go there.
To do that, and I won't ask him to enumerate his competitors.
Thank you, Bob.
Again, more questions. Okay, we have another one come in. Is there a way you can recommend to consolidate and close out old emails when you have too many?
Oh, what a great question. If you are using Microsoft Outlook, it's a process. So if you don't follow the process, there's contact information on screen right now. Let's hypothetically say you've got a Gmail account, a Yahoo account, and an MSN account, and you've had enough of Yahoo. What I would recommend is that you, in Outlook, create a PST archive of the Yahoo emails, and when you're done, you can go to Yahoo and you can close the account. I've never had to do it, so I can't tell you where to go, but I can tell you that Yahoo is now part of Verizon, and I generally find that their tech support people are really good. Another quick sidebar, I use Verizon as my mobile service. I do not go in the stores. I make it a habit to pick up the phone, call their 800 number. I can talk for an hour to the person on the phone, and unfortunately the big difference is that the person who's on the phone providing tech support is a salaried individual who, if you're nice, will talk to you for an hour and still get paid. Whereas the salesperson in the store is on a commission basis, and you need an extra widget, and you need a this, and you need a that, and you need a the other thing, and that's how the person in the store is going to make a living. And I don't want somebody trying to push the extra 2, 3, or 4 products on me. I'm looking for information, and I get my best information from the call-in services because, as I said, these are salaried people. They're knowledgeable. If you're nice to them, they will talk to you for as long as it takes.
Okay.
Anyone else?
Any last questions here before we wind up? Okay, it doesn't look like that there is any, and so just as a reminder, a couple of people have asked, the webinar is being recorded and the materials will be available on our website, fairfieldcounty.score.org. You just go to on-demand webinars and you can access the commentary from Bud as well as the slides. Our next webinar will be 2 weeks from today on March the 5th, and the topic is Marketing the One-Person Business, Consulting, or Professional Practice with Cliff Enico presenting. And again, as you see here on the slide, if you would like individual counseling, it's free. You can click on the link on the screen, or you can actually go to our website and click Request a Mentor. I would ask that you would help us out by filling out your evaluations that you're going to receive when you sign off today. So on behalf of SCORE, I'd like to thank everyone for attending this evening's live webinar. And in closing, big thanks to Bud Freund for presenting today, and have a nice evening, everyone.